It's like rumble. Good to see you guys. How you guys doing this morning? I'll let that go. All right. I'll let that go. Go Hawks. How about that? All right. Now, today is Jersey Sunday, so a lot of people are wearing their jersey, but for me, I dig our church even more than the Seahawks, so I'm wearing my jersey today, all right? I'm wearing my Built Not Born jersey today because we are kicking off a very important series for us as a church. I think it's going to be highly valuable for us in the long term as we move forward because I believe this is all about how it grounds us more in our daily affections for Christ. And so, got a lot of ground to cover today, so I want us to pray together right now and pray intentionally. It's not like just kind of the way we start a message. I want us to be very engaged in what we're about to pray, because I believe Jesus wants to do a lot of things with a lot of us over the course of the next 11 weeks. And so let's go ahead and go to him in a very sincere, intentional way right now. Jesus, I want to open this series by asking you to do a very special move of your grace in our church and in our lives as we go into this whole series on what it means to be a follower in training. What it means to be somebody who truly lives their lives fully sold out for you, fully committed to you, doing the things that are necessary to be strong and healthy and vibrant in our faith. And so I pray for every single one of us that your Holy Spirit would step in and begin to do a customized work no matter where we're at in our spiritual journey, that there would be something that transpires over the next few months where there is this hunger to maybe see our faith become more dynamic than it's ever been before, or a hunger to submit vices to your forgiving grace, and from that, your grace that empowers us to overcome. Or maybe it's just that we have a tendency to get so sidetracked by our world, and it's easy to just forget about you day in, day out until Sunday rolls around. We go, oh, that's right. And so there's any number of things. But I pray so specifically that your Holy Spirit would do that work in us, that you, Jesus, would inspire us, that Father God, you would give us a glimpse of how glorious you are, and how when we have our life and affections and priorities centered on you, life is richer. It's just deeper, it's more profound, it's more fulfilling, and I think sometimes we settle for less than because we haven't experienced the fullness of what you offer. And so again, I open the series with a sincere prayer, not in any way pre-thought, just a heart that's here today asking for you to do great work in our midst, because we want more of you so that we can be more effective for you. And so we thank you, Jesus, for this day, for this church, for your word that guides us in your perfect and holy name. Amen. So I want to kind of give you the genesis of this series, Built Not Born. It actually began about a year ago, so it's not new. And about this time last year, maybe a little toward Thanksgiving a little more, but we were talking as leaders, and we were asking ourselves the question, what is it that Redemption Church is designed to do? And part of one of our motto statements is we want to build missional theologians, right? That's our heart. We want people to be God-centered and missionally driven, to reach out to the world, but to know God in a profound way in which to do that. So the question for us was, are we accomplishing that goal? Is it happening? Right? And so from that, I wrote up kind of like a survey. And we sent that survey out to roughly 25, 30 different people in our church, in all different layers of the church. And it was a series of questions saying, hey, give us your feedback on how we're doing on this. And we received those back, and they were all very gracious, and there was a lot of encouraging things in there. But one of the things that we sort of walked away with was saying, we seem to do theologian well. Like that could be all caps, right? Theologian. That's our drive as a church. But the missional, we said that could be all lowercase. Right? That perhaps we're not doing as good a job at trying to figure out how we incorporate our faith into the world around us, how we do outreach, how we invite friends to church, all of that. Everybody kind of in that survey agreed that that was the place that we could improve. And so as pastors, we kind of fell back and said, all right, what would that look like? How would we have that emphasis as a church? And so there's all kinds of roads you can go down when it comes to that. what was interesting for us is that our walkaway was not to say, all right, then as a church, we need to be more seeker-driven. As a church, we need to change our Sunday morning services so they're more palatable and simple and good advice-giving and accessible for the lowest of the low when it comes to their information base of Christ. We didn't go down that road. In fact, if anything, we stepped back and said, the key to being more focused missionally, to being more evangelistic, if that's the word that you would choose to incorporate, was actually for people to be closer to Christ. It was actually for people to have their faith deeper and more developed and have more loyalty and commitment to Christ. So in other words, instead of saying we need to be more evangelistic, we said we need to be more what we're going to call, at least once right now, discipleship-based. Because there's something about the reality that somebody that's had an undeniable experience with Christ is compelling, right? They can't help but want to then share what they've experienced with others. It's no different than any other experiential thing in life. If you've had some kind of radical experience in your life, you share that experience, right? You'll share that experience even if people look at you like, you're a little weird. You'll still share it, right? I mean, these are the people that say they see UFOs and you're like, you're a little weird, but they believe they saw one, so they're very excited. And so in this other kind of way, that's like, okay, the more people experience Christ, then the more by design they will share Christ. And so that was part of the why. We're like, wow, that's going to be the key to help people become better followers in training, to be fit, right? That was the heart. That was part of it. So we had this pastoral meeting on a Tuesday, and it was an all-day meeting where we sat there with a white marker board and we were writing all of these notes and all of these ideas and everything else. Like, all right, so how are we going to move all of us as a church, myself included, in that place of greater closeness to Christ, being a follower in training? And we kind of stepped back and said, all right, we're looking at this from the perspective of how are we going to do it? What are the tools that we're going to use? And we said the how and the what are critical, but what's most important again is the why. Not simply why are we doing this series, but the deeper why. And so we kind of rattled around some ideas, but at the center of all of it, it was this conclusion and conviction that life is better with Jesus. Like, this is why I'm a pastor. This is why Brandon is, and Scott is, and Trent is, and the elders are a part of this, and so many people are leaders in our church because of this and involved. Because really, at the core of all of it, what is true is that life is better with Jesus. Your marriage is better with Jesus. Your parenting is better with Jesus. How you handle your finances is better with Jesus. All of these things are better with Jesus. And so as we went through all of this, we said that's always going to be the core of what we're driving at. Helping all of us to own, not just know, but to own that life is better with Jesus. And that's my heart going into this whole thing. I don't want you simply to agree, to believe a statement, life is better with Jesus. I want you to truly experience in your daily living how that's true. Because there's a difference between, quote, knowing it and then actually experiencing it. It'd be no different than if you told your child, guess what, honey? We're going to Disneyland. And they're like, yay, I'm going to Disneyland. And then you pull out your iPad and you start flipping through pictures of Disneyland. Welcome to Disneyland. That's the Cars ride. Looks cool, huh? Right? Would that move them? To some degree. They would know what the Cars ride is like. They would know what Space Mountain's like. They would know what it all looks like, but it's still two-dimensional. It's information. It's not experience. It's only when you go to Disneyland and you're on the Cars ride and the wind is blowing through your hair and you smell the smells and see the sights and experience the noise that then you really know what it's like to be on the Cars ride. Coolest ride at Disneyland right now, by the way. All right? And so that's what we're talking about. It's like moving in a direction where it's not just about, okay, I know that life with Jesus is better. It's about experiencing, feeling how life with Jesus is better. And what that requires of us is more than simply casual Christianity. It requires something more than just sort of stabbing or poking at it a couple of times in our week and thinking that that's going to be enough. Really, it takes a concerted effort to seek out. A concerted effort to seek out what is fully offered in the gospel so that you can experience what is fully available, right? You want to seek out what is fully offered so that you can experience what is fully available. Now, over the next 10 weeks after today, we're going to be looking at these 10 different waypoints or goals or exercises or whatever it is you want to call them. In Christian history, we've called them disciplines, right? And so we're going to look at 10 different things that are all designed to kind of work in concert in our lives to move us to greater, deeper places of an experienced faith with Christ that make us followers in training. As we do them, we become better followers, and we're always developing. That's going to be our goal over the next 10 weeks. But today, I want to start with the essence of what being a fit person is all about, right? It's like the starting block of all of this. And to start that, I'm drawn to something that Jesus says in the Gospel of Matthew, right? So you got to remember, Jesus rolls into the world not simply to communicate good advice. He rolls into the world to change the world. He wants to rescue the world. It's an epic story. It's not just some nice little sidebar, kind of short essay. It's like this whole epic story where the world is broken, the world's in darkness, the world needs rescue, and Jesus comes into that world. And in Matthew 16, he's hanging out with his followers in training, and he tells them, here is my agenda. He says, on this rock I will build my church. This will be the mechanism to changing the world. I'm going to build it, and even the very gates of hell itself cannot stop what I'm doing. I mean, that's how epic it is. It's going to change the world, and nothing can hold it back. So this is like this really grand vision for what he wants to do. And I'm sure in doing that, it's like he's looking at these guys saying, so do you want to sign up? Do you want to join the cause? And they're like, yeah, we want to join the cause. Where you're going, we want to go. What you're doing, we want to do. We want to see it fully. And so then Jesus says, great, here's the invitation. Deny yourself. Take up your cross and follow me. See, that's what he tells them. He just says, all right, you want to join in, you want to be a part of it, you want to move forward, deny yourself, take up your cross and follow me. That's the rally cry. And when you hear that, you hear it, and if you're really paying attention to it, you would say, wow, that is not easy. It's a rally cry, but it's not an easy rally cry because it takes full commitment. It takes being bought into what the cause is all about, but that's the offer he makes, and that's the offer we're going to unpack today, right? What that offer is really all about. Now, when offers are made, they're typically made in one of two ways, right? Some offers are made in such a way that it tries to sell you on what the offer is, right? It tries to win you over to how awesome your life will be if you just believe the offer, right? So if you are one of those people that decide, I'm going to roll the dice, I'm going to take my 3 free days in Hawaii just to sit through a 2-hour meeting on how I should get a timeshare. You just have to endure the 2 hours, right? And they're never going to bug you again, right? Right. But you go, I'm going to do that. And the whole time they're telling you how this is going to enrich your life, how it reduces your stress, how it's going to be so great for the family to all come together, how it's going to bless you and just unleash your wildest dreams. Just get the timeshare. They're selling you this offer and trying to get you to buy in through all of the positive emotion, right? Infomercials do the same thing, right? It's 30 minutes of the sham wow will change your life forever, right? That's what it is. That's how they work. And so some offers try to sell you. But there are other offers. And these offers are different because what they do is they don't sell you, they dare you. They dare you. They actually make it sound hard, and they look at you like, so are you up for it? Right? So, for example, in history, one was the Pony Express, right? This was a great I dare you. What do we need? Young, skinny, wiry fellows, not over 18, must be expert riders, willing to risk death daily, orphans preferred. Right? I mean, it's an offer. It's a job, and people flocked to that. Why? Because it was hard, not because it was easy. It says, do you have the grit? Right? There's another one. It's probably apocryphal more than anything. It's hard to track down the original source, but Shackleton, Men wanted for hazardous journey, small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return, doubtful, honor, and recognition in the event of success. All right? It says they dare you to join. What's interesting for Jesus is when he rolls into the world, he doesn't ever try to sell his message. He always dares you to it. He dares you to it. And so when we're looking at this whole thing, we start by looking at the fit invitation. And the fit invitation that Jesus offers in your notes, if you're following along on our app, we have notes in our app. His invitation is this: think twice before joining. Think twice before joining. Now, I quoted this passage in Matthew, but he says it again in Luke. The think twice before joining invitation. It says he said to all, everybody there, everybody here, he says to all, if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself. Let him take up his cross. Doesn't say Jesus' cross, just note that, it will come up later. Let him take up his cross daily and follow me. Now, I don't know about you, but when I read this, it seems like an invitation to a root canal, right? It seems like your friend comes to you and says, hey, I've got an invitation. Would you hold my line at the DMV while I go play, and then call me when they call my number and I'll take over from there, right? There's nothing about this that seems overly compelling from like, oh, yes, I want to go do that point of view. Right? In other words, like I said earlier, Jesus doesn't cater to kind of a seeker-driven, good advice model. He just doesn't do that. I mean, I know it's popular today in churches to say that's what we want to focus on. We just want to focus on giving people good advice, things that inspire, things that build up, things that make their life kind of better, simpler, more efficient, whatever. And then Jesus says, I'm going to roll in and say something completely different. I'm going to push you to greatness. But it's going to be through this challenging message. See, I think this tells us something about Jesus as we look at being followers in training, and that is that Jesus is not a motivational speaker. I mean, not in the traditional sense of it, at least, right? He's not a life coach. Jesus is not concerned about, making sure his message is so palatable that everybody wants it. He's doing something different. He says, you know what? True greatness, true faithfulness, true success and significance is not found in the easy, but it's found in the challenging. Because again, keep his agenda in mind. He rolls in to rescue the world. The cause is an epic cause. And therefore, it'll cost. It'll cost. I don't want to sugarcoat this series. Some people are like, oh, this is going to be so inspiring. And I'm like, well, it depends on how you look at inspiring. I think it's inspiring, the idea of cost. Because cost is almost always attached to reward. Right? So, for example, if you were to go to the Naval Special Warfare School in Coronado, California, there is a place called the Grader, which is the physical training space at the Naval Amphibious School, where everybody has their PT every day. And on the wall, there is a motto. And it is not the easiest day was yesterday. That is not the motto. A lot of people think that that's not it. It's a simple motto: be someone special. So every day, everybody going through Bud's training sees a sign: be someone special, be someone special, be someone special. What makes it special? That it's easy? No, it's specifically that it's difficult. It's specifically because it demands the utmost focus and vision and drive and determination and this idea of pushing through pain and going deeper than you realize possible. All of that causes us to go, yeah, when somebody comes out of Bud's training and becomes an operative in Naval Special Warfare, we go, man, this is why it's so important and elite and special and significant. Specifically because it was so deeply challenging. And see, I think it's that same thing that Jesus is getting at here. Now, I'm not talking about what it means to get saved. Grace is free. Right? I want us to drive this through. Oh, okay, let me get this straight. If I'm going to become a Christian, I'm going to be a saved person, I need to do all these things. No, Jesus is getting at saved people. This is what their focus is to be. You're saved by grace. But that same grace that saves you is also designed to engage you to then be significant in the way that Jesus has wired significance, which is this list of things. Deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me. All he's saying is if you want to be significant, then it means serious faith. It means a truly serious ownership of faith. And so what this means is that it's not a downer, this idea of difficulty. Rather, we have to look at it from the perspective of, wow, usually the most important things in life, the most rewarding things in life, the most celebrated things in life require facing difficulty. Otherwise, they're not rewarding. They're just freebies, right? And so as followers in training, we go, oh, okay, what Jesus is calling me to will give me the greatest depth of life I could ever experience in this life. But to get there, it does cost. It does mean challenge. It means it's not going to be ease. But that's the road to being exceptional when it comes to the kingdom. Not ease, but exceptionalism because of what Christ calls us to. And I would say what's important in this is to realize that Christ doesn't call us to an information system, right? He calls us to a faith system, and they're different, right? An information system is basically what you know. A faith system, ready? It's what you do. And there's a difference. And I think sometimes as Christians, we default to the what I know system because that's frankly a little easier to do. It's much easier to sit in a Bible study and learn information than it is to take that information and play it out at work or with your kids or with your spouse or with your friends or with your money or with your time or with your private life or with your thoughts or with your emotions. That's hard. That's a challenge. But see, that's the very place that Jesus is inviting us to in this invitation. It's not about what you know, it's about what you do. You look at Jesus' critics. His critics knew what God said. They just wouldn't do what God said. Right? And so this is always going to be the dividing line. If we want to be truly fit followers in training, then we have to embrace this approach for life where Jesus then shapes life by this standard. Things that are challenging, yet also fulfilling and establish greatness. Right? So he dares us to this. And so I want us just to begin to slice through how he lays this out in this verse. We're only looking at one verse. Keep bringing it up so we get it. This is like the motto verse of the whole series. And so as we slice our way through, what we want to start owning is this idea of, first of all, followers in training, in your notes, they embrace the freedom of constraint. They embrace the freedom of constraint. That's exactly what let him deny himself means. Embrace the freedom of constraint. Now, I know that idea is like an oxymoron, which is basically a pointed idiot. That's all it means. That's so weird to me. But Jesus loved this, right? Think about how often Jesus would use opposites. The greatest will be the what? The first will be the, oh, he dug this and you get it. You know it. So in the same way, he's laying out the way to have the freest life possible. And he opens it up by saying the way to freedom is through constraint. That's how he works. And yet we know this to be true in other aspects of life, right? I mean, you think about it, if you're a student in our room, the way forward for freedom for you is constraint when it comes to things like homework. Right? You can either have freedom now and not do your homework, but then what happens down the road? Constraint is applied to you outside of your control, right? And then you're constrained in ways that you wouldn't want. But if you choose constraint on the front end, I'm going to stop, do my homework, do what I'm supposed to do, turn it in, everything else, then it leads to greater freedom. Right? So constraint doesn't strip you of freedom. Constraint gives you greater freedom if you leverage it. It's the same for those of us that are probably a little bit more adult, and we have to every time look at our finances and say, all right, debt and living in my means and everything else, do I want freedom or constraint? If you choose constraint on the front end and says, I'm not going to spend more than I have, then ultimately in the long run, you have freedom, right? But if you choose momentary freedom, put it on the card, live outside of your means, what happens down the road? You feel more constrained. And the person that makes the decision on the front end, I guarantee you on the back end, has a higher quality of life than the person chooses immediate freedom and then experiences the constraint on the back end. They have a lower quality of life. So this is true in a lot of different things. So it never surprises me that Jesus operates in what is generally a true model to all things, where he's saying if you choose in your life to operate in a restricted way, in one sense, yes, you're restricted. But having those restrictions on the front end over things that matter help on the back end, and they give you greater opportunity, greater fulfillment. And so Jesus isn't saying here, self-denial robs you of life. He's saying self-denial actually emboldens you and equips you and enables you for a greater life. This is why he promotes it. Like I said, Jesus never is trying to rob you. He is trying to enrich you. But he says things like this that throw us off and we go, I don't know if it sounds like that. But see, he wants more for us. So he makes these offers that on the front end have demand, have constraint. Because on the back end, they fulfill, right? He's saying stop pursuing draining things, start pursuing life-giving things. Stop doing what is easy and embrace what is challenging. Because again, if you want to be someone special, it's the tough road, not the easy road, that creates the character in which that thrives. And so his first thing is, embrace the freedom of constraint. But then he goes a step deeper. He says, not only this, if you want to be a part of my kingdom expansion, you want to be a part of the life that I'm offering, followers in training embrace the blessing of suffering. The blessing of suffering. Another oxymoron, another thing that doesn't simply compute in our minds. He says, not only do I want you to deny yourself, I want you to take up your cross. Now, right now, some of you are probably saying, Matt, you're really sucking the helium out of my balloon on this. Right? Like, this is not the inspiration I was shooting for. Constraint? Really? Suffering? I am not feeling Twitter-pated for Jesus today. But see, again, I think there's more here, that when we stop and we think about it more deeply, we see that, no, this is absolutely true. So, for example, in the New Testament often talks about suffering. And every time it talks about it, it says, first of all, don't go trying to invent suffering. Don't go seek out suffering. It doesn't say to invite it into your life. But when it comes, it consistently says, don't squander it. When suffering comes into your life, you allow it to be leveraged, to grow your character, to drive you deeper toward God, to let it have a refining process in your life. And so you see that in Romans 5, you see that in 1 Peter, you see it in all sorts of places where it's like, when it comes, let it have its perfect work in you. Let it do the heavy lifting of shaping you in ways that you wouldn't have been shaped otherwise. And so while we retract from suffering, especially in the American culture where we try to insulate ourselves from pain, see, Jesus lived in the real world where pain is an ally. Suffering can be a blessing. Now, not in the midst of the suffering, but we have to kind of think about what the suffering produces. And we're not on a trajectory of just in this life. Suffering in this life, oftentimes we don't see the payout as much as we'll see it in the eternal aspects of life. And so we have to kind of always bank on that. This life may be hard, but I embrace the suffer part for the riches to be revealed after the suffering. And so this is what Jesus is really getting at, this whole idea of this willingness to embrace suffering. But we don't simply see it in the New Testament, we also see it in just life in general, right? I mean, think about how many things, how many inventions, how many advancements came in the context of pain. Or it was a pain in the overcoming, right? I mean, you think about Edison with the light bulb, right? It wasn't like day one, bam, got it, that was awesome. No, it was constant pain, constant challenge, trying to solve a problem, time after time, failure after failure, and then finally figures it out. Or the Wright brothers and their flyer, right? Same thing. Pain, 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 hardship, challenge, overcoming, keep it going, tenacity, resilience, vision. And then they finally see a breakthrough after years of fighting for it. Maybe more close to home, the Seahawks and their offensive line, right? Pain, suffering, ouch, oh, they're going to get it figured out, right? Figured out, Pete, right? Like, we're still midway on that one. We haven't seen the victory yet. All right, but it's the same thing. In life, pain is a part of advancement. Pain is what makes us strong. Suffering forges in us character. And so this is what Jesus' essence is here. When he says, take up your cross. Again, like I said, he doesn't mean his cross. He doesn't say, take up my cross. That's usually how we translate it. Or we take this and we go, your cross is whatever your cross is to bear. Maybe it's your father-in-law, right? Or a difficult teen, or a boss, or a health crisis, or whatever. And I'm not saying that those aren't things that you have to sometimes bear with. But when Jesus says, take up your cross, every one of his listeners understood instantaneously this was about submitting yourself to the authority of the state who may mistreat you and take your life in a way that is public and shameful, and you look like a criminal. In other words, he's saying you have to have such a level of buy-in to this that you're okay with what the world thinks based on what you believe. You're okay that whatever that system is may deem you unhealthy, unwholesome, or unhelpful, because you know in the end that what Jesus offers is better. And so he's saying you have to be willing, not simply to deny yourself and your own interest for a greater interest, but you have to be willing to even suffer for the sake of what I'm calling you to. That's take up your cross. And that's why I said this isn't necessarily easy. It says we have to be okay with the fact that sometimes there are going to be some in our environment, in our lives, that look at what we believe and they go, that really is silly. You really believe that? I mean, you really think the Bible's like 100% true? Like, you honestly think that? You think that some of the things that it expects of people are actually right and wrong, and there's going to be things that it's hard to kind of publicly be like, no, this is where I land. This is where I identify with him. In fact, to me, it's the difference between camouflage Christians and confident Christians. See, the camouflage Christian just wants to blend in, right? So on Sunday, I fit in. My small group, I fit in. But when I go to work, I put the camo on. When I'm in the neighborhood, camo's on. When I'm with my friends, camo's on. So I blend in there, and then when I'm around the Christian people again, then I take the camo off. I look like a committed one. And Jesus says, man, I'm not looking for camo Christians. I'm looking for ones that are committed, they're confident, that are certain of what it is they are following after. Now again, we're going to do that imperfectly. I think a lot of times, even for me as a Christian, I find myself moving forward, but I stumble a lot. I feel like I'm a forward-leaning drunk for Jesus sometimes, just, But that's the direction. We try to do our best to not be camo, but be committed, to embrace what it all means. And if I was to simplify it, I think it's just meaning that we're proud of Jesus. I want you to look around. Just think about it in the last month. If you've watched news or social media or whatever, how many people out there are proud of their cause? I mean, you can start to think of groups now. They're proud of their cause. Whatever the cause is, man, they're out there. They've got pickets. They got signs. They're putting together rallies. They're got these things online to try to get, more followers, everything else, man. People are so proud of their cause today. But I think what happens with us as followers of Jesus is that we've gotten a little shy about our cause, and we act as though our cause will offend. So we're like the only people group that are freaked out about being proud of our cause. Every other group is so proud of their cause, and we're like, we're proud in here. No, not everybody is like that, but it's my temptation. And yet what take up your cross is all about is being proud of Jesus. Now, I don't mean be proud of Jesus like a punk or a poser that doesn't do any good. Right? I'm not talking about being proud of Jesus and promoting Jesus like PETA does animal rights. That's just craziness. I mean, you see that, like, we're not going to be throwing blood on people and run around naked for Jesus. That doesn't help. Right? So sometimes there's over-the-top proud, and we don't want to be over-the-top proud. We want to be sensibly proud. We want to be authentically proud, intelligently proud. We want to be kindly proud and thoughtfully proud of Jesus. Missionally, we want to be proud of Jesus. But it also means we need to be daily proud of Jesus. And this is why Jesus says this is to all happen daily. That means a follower in training never stops training. Right? Never. What this means is this series for us is not 11 weeks or 11 months or 11 years. This is a death do us part series. Right? Where we're learning some things, but we're learning them so that we can then see those incorporated on a daily basis, because the reality is we will not grow simply because we chose to, on a particular day, have a day of focus. We only grow when we have a focus that says, every day, this is what I'm going to do. Every single day, this is what I'm committing my life to. Every single day, I'm going to confront my propensity to not pursue this and push against it and pursue it anyway. I think this is why Luke throws in the word daily. Matthew didn't have the daily. Luke emphasizes it because I think he's spot on. This is how we grow spiritually. I think this is one of the biggest things for us to walk away with in this whole deal. That we have to make this approach every single day, making decisions to the big picture. Now, I've had this illustrated to me in a kind of a way that I didn't anticipate. And oftentimes, here at Redemption, I choose transparency. And so today, I'm going to offer a level of transparency I think I've never offered before, which is a picture of me without a shirt. All right? Yeah, I'm pretty embarrassed already. All right, so this was about me a year ago, right? And a year ago, I had a lot of health problems. I've shared this before. I had a rotten diet. I had terrible sleep patterns. I had insomnia. I had stress. I have a disease that affects some of my joints and my hips. And so, again, it would be hard to walk. I mean, there's all this stuff. And it was all self-generated. It was all self-generated. It was just, again, I would drink coffee for breakfast and lunch, no food, and then I would come home and jam a bunch of carbohydrates down my throat and try to figure out why I didn't feel good, right? And so basically, end of October of last year, Ellen's like, I'm going to put you on this whole food regimen. We're going to get you eating right. You're going to actually eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I hated the idea at first. I mean, I was like kind of bitter about it. She's going to make me eat this crap, right? And so that was where I was at. And so, but I was like, okay, we're going to do it. And so I remember the day I started, took it totally serious, like hardcore. I'm going to go all in on it, right? And so that day, man, I was fully committed. And then you know what? By the next day, you want to know what I look like? Just like that. Exactly the same. But then it was crazy, like 10 days went by. And every single day, I would wake up every day, I'm going to make this decision, I'm going to get my breakfast, I'm going to get my lunch, I'm going to get my dinner, I'm going to eat what I'm supposed to do, I'm not going to eat the junk, I'm cutting out caffeine. Oh, I cut out caffeine, talk about, right? So all of that, but then after 10 days, you want to know what I look like? Still just like that. But here's the bonus, I felt worse, all right? Right? So, felt miserable, right? My body's revolting. It's going through detox, right? It's like, man, just get some Doritos, get it in your body, right? Get your juices flowing, man. You got to get some caffeine back in there. So again, after 10 days, I didn't feel better. I felt worse. I looked the same. Nothing was different, but I was faithful for 10 days. But then I kept going. And then after 30 days, I'd lost like around 9 to 10 pounds. Right? And so I found that, wow, if you just keep doing this day after day after day, it goes further. So then I went a couple of months, and then I lost like 20 pounds. And then you know what started happening? People started coming to me and saying, are you sick? How many of you would see on a Sunday, go, I think Matt's sick? Yeah, some of you were like thinking that. People are coming, they're going to Ellen. Is he okay? Is he all right? And that kind of thing. And so then I realized, like, hey, this is great that I've got all of these disciplines and I'm not taking in crud, but now I'm getting really thin. I've got to add more things into my world, right? So then I start doing push-ups and I start going to the gym. And then here's the thing about this. This goes back to the constraint is the I'm not going to eat junk, but then the other part is the suffering. That's called the gym, right? The gym is suffering. And here's the thing, it goes back to, you know what, you're gonna be faithful. So you go in and your first day, you're feeling good, you do curls, you're feeling awesome. And then the next day you're walking around like a T-Rex, right? You're just like this the whole time, right? You can't even imagine going back to do curls at that point. You're just like, give me my fork, you know? Eat my food, right? Because it's pain at first, but then you adjust. And as you grow and adapt and learn, you start adding in new things. And every time you add in a new thing, guess what? New pain. I added in deadlifts last week, and then I was walking around like Frankenstein for days after that, right? And so it's all progression, it's all growth. But then after 10 months, then I've lost over 30 pounds, I've put on muscle, I've become healthier, I sleep better, I eat better. And here's the crazy part about this daily thing. I would estimate I probably work out about 11 times a day. Now, here's what I mean by that. I go to the gym once, 5 days a week. That only counts for one of the 11 times, right? Every morning when I wake up, I have to make a decision. What do I eat? That's highly a part of what it means to be fit. So I have to decide breakfast, lunch, dinner. I have to decide snacks. I have to make the conscious decision to go to bed earlier instead of later because I need a lot of rest. There's always going to be these things that want to get in the way. Some mornings you wake up and go, I don't want to go do that. I'd rather just eat this. I'd rather do that thing. And yet you have to do it daily. And you have to make conscious decisions all through the day, right? To then keep in mind what it is you really want to see established. Now, I'm not going to show you some after picture because that's weird. And the other part is there's no after. There's right now. Right? There's always right now. And so as you're journeying along, forget the physical now, that we're going to make a lot of parallels to physical throughout the series because I think there's a lot of parallels to make. But the thing is, there really is no after until after this life. So every day, it's just making the same set of decisions. Every day, it's coming to the fork in the road and saying, all right, I'm going to do this as Jesus wants me to do it. I want to be more committed to what he is asking of my life. And yes, along the way, you adapt, you grow, you learn, you experience suffering, and sometimes pain. You're constantly making decisions. It has to be the fabric of your life. But this is where we're looking at it and saying, you know what? I want to sense his fullness, so I'm willing to do that. I want to experience what the Bible communicates in ways that maybe I never have, and so this is why I'm going to do this. I want to pursue the things in life that actually secure peace and joy and purpose outside of the conditions of life. And so what I know that means is that I need to deny myself and take up my cross. But then, in that, we follow him. And what that means is that the follower in training, they follow Jesus. We don't follow a code or a creed. We don't follow a religion. We don't follow a church. We follow a person. A person who came into this world, gave us an example for life, laid down his life for us so that he could give us a life in which we could live out his example. That's what a follower in training is going to be all about in this, right? That's what the follow me offer is all about. Jesus left an example. He did it with commitment, with conviction, with sacrifice for us to then imitate. And the early church, when they thought about the life of Jesus, they were like OCD for Jesus, man. Everything he did, they wanted to do, right? They just wanted to mimic that, and there was good reason for that. I mean, you think about who Jesus is and what he did. He was perfectly moral, right? Moral, but he was known as being a friend of those who were immoral. He was powerful, but he was kind and he was good. He was poor, but he helped out the poor. He was holy, yet he brought aid and help to the sinful. He was focused, yet flexible. Perfect, yet accepted others where they were at. He was right, and yet he always forgave those who were wrong. He had authority, yet he opted to serve. He was the king, and yet he chose slavery. He was divine, and yet every day it says he relied on God. I mean, these are all the examples that he left. And so we don't just follow a mere man. We follow God who became man to give himself for us and to us so that we might live for him and to him in the world around us. I mean, this is why he is saying all of this. He's like, trust me, follow me. Man, let me define and direct your life. and it will ultimately go well with you. You will be used for great and epic things. You will experience things that you couldn't experience otherwise. But we have to follow. And not follow like social media or follow a team or follow a story. No, it's more than that. The idea of following here is an apprenticeship, right? It's job shadowing. If you're a Star Wars nerd, it's the Padawan learner. I don't care what thing you use. It's this idea that says, all right, Jesus, I'm going to really analyze how you do things, the tone in which you do them, the attitude that is there, the actions that flow from that attitude. I want to become more like that. That's the invitation here, to follow him. Again, it's where we watch and we try and we fail and then we correct and then we develop. And it's just cycling that. We just keep doing that. Now, again, I keep saying, is this easy? No, it's not easy, but it is rewarding. When we surrender our ambition and our drive to his purposes as opposed to holding them for ourselves, that is rewarding. And that's where I always want to draw it back to. Jesus doesn't issue this trying to erode the fun of life. He's trying to enrich the depth of life by saying, man, if you come after me, I'm telling you, I'm going to take you on a journey that, while challenging, is fulfilling. And so over the next 10 weeks, we're going to be looking at these 10 different markers. In fact, we have an image for that. It's just sort of a decalogue of different things here, that we go, these are kind of the fundamentals of what it means to be a follower. Every week, we're going to look at a different one of these. Right? And we're doing this in a weird sort of way. These things don't necessarily produce directly. They're not the fruit. Maybe I want to say it that way. They're not the fruit of the follower life, the follower in training, but they're like the sun and soil and water that goes into the tree of who we are. And God uses these things in our lives, and it kind of metabolizes in us and produces all sorts of unique fruit. So these are the ways that we display our faithfulness, our hunger to grow, our desire to deny ourselves, take up our cross and follow him. But then in doing that, then he does a work in us, and it begins to produce the various fruit issues that we long for in life, the chief of which is experiencing God in ways that are enriching and fulfilling and life-shaping. And so we'll just look at each one of these. And like I said, it's a little bit like exercise. Some of these things you're going to be like, I love that. That one is easy for me. And others you're going to go, that one's tough, and I don't even know what to do with that. And yet we need to learn to incorporate. Have them all be true. And it's like the sun and the water and the soil to the tree that is our life that God will use to grow us. Now, I'm going to say to do this effectively as a church means a few things. And one of the things I've found in life is that it's always more effective to travel in a pack than it is solo. Right? To run in a group will get you a better time than to run by yourself. And so one of the things in our next steps that we're always encouraging, we have been for weeks now, is our small groups, our regroups. And this is one of the things, again, if you've not signed up to a regroup and you consider redemption your home, I want to challenge you to do that. And I know some of you are like, I'm an introvert, that's not my environment, I feel all weirded out, I feel like I have to share and talk, and I don't want to do that. I get that. I shared last week that that's also one of the things that I sometimes struggle with. Right? And yet I know that I grow better in a pack. And so we have this material to go through this entire series, and all of our small groups, our regroups, are going through this material. And again, I know you may kind of just feel like, I don't know. I'm just asking you, man, for the next 11 weeks, get into a group, go through this. Going through it on your own won't be the same as going through it with a group, because what you'll find so often with a group is they are at where you are at, and it's an encouragement. And so we just want to kind of own that. Like, man, I want that. So if you want more information about regroups, you can tag that in that app, and we're going to get a hold of you and let you know what that's all about. Another opportunity we have for people to kind of move in the pack is an event that's coming up. It's our women's getaway. And it's interesting because this getaway is happening right at the same time that this series is underway. And usually as a church, we try not to double dip things, but we looked at this and said, this is really important because there's something about the women coming together, not only for a great communicator with a great life story. I've known her for years. It's going to be amazing. You're going to want to go to this. But aside from that, there's a lot of downtime in this event where women can connect with women. And again, we're meant to move in a pack. Right? Solo Christianity is nowhere to be found in the New Testament. Nowhere. It's always a group effort. And so this is something that I encourage you ladies, if you haven't signed up for, to sign up for. There's a table out front. Some of you are saying, I know, but the kids and everything else. This is why, Dad is awesome, right? He can make ponytails. One's going to be out the front, one's going to be out the back, but he can make them, right? So, but, it's like, just make time for this. Because, again, moving in a pack is awesome. And maybe for some of you, you're saying, I'm listening to all of this, and it's one of two roads. Either I've never followed Christ, and I need to do that, or it's, I would say I'm a follower of Christ, but I'm hearing this whole invitation, and this has not been in the fabric of my life for a while, and I need to kind of recalibrate my life. There's a little item for that too. You tag that, and we're going to connect with you. We're going to contact you, not because we want something from you, but we want something for you. We want to pray with you or encourage you, whatever we can do to either show you what it means to live for Christ, or maybe to just reconnect with them since it's been a little while since you've been connected. Now, what's not in our next steps, but maybe what you're needing right now is our prayer tile. I just need prayer. You can access that 24/7, by the way. It comes instantly to our elders. It doesn't go out to the church. It comes to our elders. But man, we would love to pray for you. And so that's an access point right there where you say, I want to take this seriously. I want to be a follower in training. I want to grow in my faith. I want to have a serious type of faith. I just need prayer for that. We would love to pray for this. So you could choose that or any number of things that you're facing. Because like I said, our heart is to get to the why, which is life is better with Jesus, right? It's not that we're looking at this saying, how can we get something from our church? It's how can we give something to all of us that drives us deeper to him. Let's go ahead and pray together. Jesus, I thank you for the reminder of your motto here. And I pray over the next 10 weeks, as we look at each one of these things, I know there's going to be some of these that we go, yep, I like that, that's great, that fits my life perfect, and there's going to be others that are challenging, and we go, man, I don't know if I like that goal or that exercise in my life, and if I was to start doing that, it would have an impact on my money, or if I was to start doing that, it's going to have an impact on my time, or my priorities, or my agenda, or whatever else, and then it draws us back to the, deny myself, take up my cross, follow you on a daily basis. I pray that we would look at this kind of daring us to your greatness, and we would receive it. We'd say, I want to be what Jesus is all about and what he's offering. And so I ask that you would do that work and again, mobilize us to that. Like instead of it being like a heavy, we go, man, yes, it's a challenge, but it's beautiful. So work in us and show us what you seek to do. In your good name, amen.